Good morning, everybody. I am cooking on the wood cook stove this morning. I had a few little sausage links, excuse me. I need a pot holder. And I thought I would make just some eggs with leftover sausages that are cut up. And I threw a little bit of onion in there, and I'm going to warm those up really good. And it already smells really good in here. I think I need to put another log on my wood stove. This is our old wood cook stove, and we use it as our main heat every winter. This is our main heat. We cook on it all winter long. Put another log on the fire. I've cooked on this stove for 35 plus years. It's actually probably going to be going on 37, 38. So this old girl's been with me a long time. My folks, way back when, almost 40 years ago, bought it in somebody's yard that they had took out of their house. It was sitting out in their yard, and they paid $200 for it. And so it was a good buy. You're not going to find a good buy like that very often anymore. Just saying, but they are worth their weight in gold. But this little stove is our main heat here on our homestead. Cowboy and I cut our own firewood. He will cut it down and get it ready to split, and we'll split it together and put it in a 2-horse trailer that we keep it in. He's been trying lately to keep ahead of the game and keep enough wood down cut on the ground for a year in advance at least. And so those logs are drying out, those trees. We've got a lot of pines here on the homestead. So we've got our own wood. And it's not that hard of a job. I don't like to do it though, actually, if it's really cold out or wet. It's kind of a September kind of job for me, or a nice warm winter day where, you know, there's sun and it's really a nice day. And then you just keep the thermos of coffee pretty close and handy. But this is just our main heat. We keep it running all day. First thing in the morning we start it. And then maybe I can show you. Oh, I hate to move this too much, but we'll show you the front of it. If you're new to our channel, this is an old home comfort stove. There we go. A little crooked there. It's called Home Comfort. And yes, I can bake in the oven. I don't like to let it get as hot as your regular propane stove would say to bake. If it says 350 on here on the door, it's actually too hot. But we'll start the stove first thing in the morning. And it runs all day in the winter. We cook on it. I've got soups cooking on it. We do a lot of breakfasts on it. Pancakes, eggs, bacon. And then it will keep burning until we go to bed at night. We'll fill it up with wood. You do have to cut a lot of smaller chunks of wood for this stove. You know, they are not very big chunks. And you even want smaller chunks than that if you are cooking, because then it keeps a hotter, faster heat for you to cook on. If you cook on this side of the stove, this is your hottest area right above the firebox. And if you need it to turn down the heat, you just move it over. Like right now, I want to brown up these little sausages and the onions and get those cooked a little bit before I dump my eggs in. I've got some farm fresh eggs whipped up here, and I thought I would just mix them together. This is a warming box, and you can put your plates, your whatever you're cooking up in here. We've cooked a lot of like Thanksgiving extra foods on here. Last year Cowboy did a turkey in here while I cooked one in the propane stove. There's always room for extra potatoes or gravy or your green bean casserole or your squash. You know, when you're cooking a big holiday meal like that and you've got a lot of folks coming, you need a lot of space to cook all that food. And so this wood stove really comes in handy. And, you know, it just tastes so much better when it's cooked on the wood stove. We may roast everybody out of the house because you've got to keep it going, and maybe it's a nice Thanksgiving day and it's hot and it's nice, but you know what? You just open up the door, you open up the windows, and you go from there. But it smells good. We like to keep a pot of hot water on our stove all the time just to put the moisture in the air. We don't get such a nose full of dry air, you know. So we try to keep water boiling in that pot. This little red pot is my hot tea pot. Whenever I need something hot and I don't have coffee in my thermos, I'm more of a coffee drinker. But after a while I will trade off and change to hot teas. Like last night, I fixed me a cup of hot water with vinegar and a little bit of honey, and that way I get a little bit of good vinegar in me. Well, these are just about ready for our eggs. But if you've never used, I dropped a piece of wood in my eggs. When I showed you that log of wood, okay, I gotta look and make sure. I guess I'll just tell Cowboy ahead of time. If you find a little chunk of bark, it was because I was showing everybody a piece of wood. I think that was it. It was just one little piece floating. Oh gosh, you never know around here, you know. This is just our homestead, our way of life. This is the way we've lived all our life. And there we'll pour the eggs in. Nice yellow, dark, golden eggs. And yes, this is Saturday and we woke up to snow. Yesterday was 70 degrees. You would never know this was coming, but the weather station kept saying snow, wind, it's going to blow in a cold front, and it sure did. Blew it in. And so we have snow on the ground, and it was about 32 degrees this morning when we woke up. Cowboy's still out with his tractor feeding the calves. I got done with my chores. I'm going to put a little bit of salt and pepper on these. But I thought we would have some scrambled eggs and use up that little bit of sausage. And I know it's going to taste good to him when he comes in from the cold. He's been working on building our deck. And I haven't shown pictures yet, but I'll have to. But right now, it's got snow on it. So maybe I better take one with the snow on it too. But hopefully it'll warm up again and he can get back to that project. So if y'all have a wood cook stove like this, an old time, or one of the new Amish cook stoves, which I know some of you have those. My Cowboy and I went down to the Amish neighbors the other day, and they had their Amish stove going. My Cowboy fell in love with that stove. So, I don't know. Someday he thinks he's going to take out this old stove and put one of those in. I guess it would be okay. I've just used this one for so many years that it would be kind of a bittersweet thing for me because I've used it so long. But one of those Amish stoves actually holds the bigger wood. They're really nice stoves. There's so many different styles too, but so we'll see. But anyway, it was fun to sit by their fire. They handed me a cup of coffee, sat me in one of those nice wooden Amish rockers. And I had a good visit with the mama and the grandma that's been up from Missouri, actually, where a lot of you folks are from. They were up visiting, and so she had been mending the kids' clothes that day, their coats, Grandma was. Grandma was sitting in her rocker, and she had a pile of coats, and she'd been putting on new buttons and not zippers, but buttons on the coats. And anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this finished. I hear Cowboy coming, and we're going to have breakfast. So, talk to you soon.